I'm going to try and go through my presentation fairly quick here so I can give Ken some time and so that we've got time for questions. And we do have break coming up after this. And I'm going to start off with a video here. And I just need to toggle on down to that. I've had several folks ask me already, so where's Eugene, Springfield, for those of you out of the area. We're Portlandia South. Just head 2 hours south from here and look for the other city with people with long beards riding around on fixie bicycles making their own pickles. That's us. We're also the second largest metropolitan community in Oregon. Our Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission serves the cities of Eugene and Springfield for about 250,000 folks combined. And I'm going to kick you off with a video here that I'm proud to unveil. We just released this year. Let me see if I can get this to work.
The cities of Eugene and Springfield, along with Lane County, have formed a partnership to clean and treat used water, or wastewater, for the metro area. This is vital to the health of our local waterways, specifically the Willamette River, where treated wastewater is returned to the environment. Regional wastewater services are managed with a focus on sustainability, keeping both the environment and our growing community at the core of every effort. Want to know how? This beautiful grove is the BioCycle Farm, or Poplar Farm, about 400 acres of poplar trees. It's one of only a handful in the entire nation. Poplar trees grow rapidly using biosolids, which is an organic byproduct of the wastewater treatment process. Okay, it's the treated stuff that can be used as fertilizer. These poplar trees are also harvested for commodities such as cardboard, paper, charcoal, and even veneer for plywood. This is just part of the effort to provide sustainable services to ratepayers. But wait, there's more about that biosolid or fertilizer stuff too.
We've been working with local farmers for over 20 years applying biosolids as a fertilizer to grass crops. It's a safe and beneficial way to reuse biosolids. We also use the biosolids here on the Poplar Farm as a soil amendment. Using what we generate from the wastewater treatment process in another application makes sense financially and environmentally. It's also another way that we can support our growing economy by supplying biosolids to local grass seed farmers.
That's not the only sustainable practice the partnership is leading in our region. Have you ever heard of recycled water? See that big piece of equipment? Well, that's pumping recycled water to irrigate the poplar trees. Recycled water is clean wastewater from the wastewater treatment facility. It's used here on the BioCycle Farm and on landscaping at the treatment facility. Using recycled water helps conserve our limited water resources. It also makes economic sense to use byproducts of the wastewater treatment process. Want to know something else that's cool? The partnership is working to use even more of the biogas produced during the treatment process to help power the treatment facility. The facility currently uses about 60 to 70% of the energy made while cleaning water. And the treatment facility is gravity fed, meaning gravity helps move wastewater through the system to reduce energy demands. From using recycled water to generating its own energy, this regional partnership provides wastewater services in a way that benefits both the environment it protects and the community it serves.
Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to Trail Smith, who's in the audience with us today. And also the kid in there is my son, so it was a lot of fun. And when he said he'd never heard of recycled water before, that was a lie, and that was really difficult for him. He gets to hear about it every day at dinner. All right, back to our regularly scheduled presentation. And just a little, a bit about the wastewater folks that are going to be talking to you. There's me, there's Ken. You're going to go visit Curtis Stoltz and Woodburn later this afternoon. So you can see 3 different applications of using Poplar. So MWMC is largely for biosolids application, even though clearly we do the recycled water. Real quick, just going through our facility, there's the 400 acres of poplar trees and 3 separate management units there. We have drying and aeration beds, so this is first and foremost in the foreground there is our Biosolids Management facility. And once the biosolids are processed, you can do land application out at the Poplar farm. About 20%, 25% of our biosolids go to our own poplar trees, and then the rest is disseminated to mostly grass seed farmers in the local area. There's the 3 management units, 3 different age rotations. Just real quick here. Management unit 1 we just harvested over the last 3 years, and so we're going to be replanting that this year. We started out real quickly here with 7 different varieties in that first management unit, so kind of going through some experimentation, learning curve, and growing pains. Wintered that down to 4 different varieties in our 3rd management unit, and then this coming replanting, we're focusing primarily on growing OP367, the 1 variety with a couple other test varieties. This timeline, the important thing is, I just learned this recently, our community started applying biosolids with local farmers back in the 1970s. In the 80s, the cities of Eugene and Springfield combined to 1 regional treatment plant, and the Biosolids Management facility was constructed. The Poplar farm came online, and then we just did that first harvest. So it looks like one great big, hey, we've been doing this for decades. Well, we've only had 1 harvest so far, and that was with a lot of growing pains. So we're really new at this. The reason that we have a poplar plantation, back in 1996, the facility was faced with a growing potential for a growing backlog of biosolids. I wanted to make sure that we didn't have to eventually ship those off and landfill those. So investing in our own poplar farm was a way to have that secured site, and it gives our operators lots of flexibility. I'll show that in a little bit here about how it's used. Real quickly, from our digesters at the water pollution control facility, the treatment plant, it's piped to these lagoons. We've got 4 different lagoons where on average, the biosolids will reside for about 3 years. We call that being aged to perfection before we distribute those for use. Go through dewatering facilities, and then from there, the dewatered biosolids or dry biosolids can be applied, trucked out to the cooperative farms. And the liquid biosolids can bypass that, which helps distribute more biosolids and go right to the poplar trees. We can also put the dewatered biosolids on our grass buffers that don't have the same restrictions of liquid versus dewatered, or it can go directly to the poplar trees itself, and I'll show how we do that a little bit too. Ignore the big scary numbers on this graph. The important thing that I wanted to show here is that in this column right here, that's percent biosolids processed. My operators tell me that about 70% is virtually 100%. If you basically, you're measuring the biosolids that come in from the treatment plant, once they are reduced in the lagoons and then they're processed out of that, if you're getting about 70% of what you took in, you pretty much have processed everything in a given year. So right there, the add dewatering year, about 2000, you can see that we were well south of that 70% mark. But moving forward from there, you can see above 70% and up over 100% in some cases. That means you're just harvesting more out of the lagoons that you took in the particular year. And that was also largely because we were doing some lagoon relining projects where everything had to come out of the lagoon those years. And then we added the BioCycle Farm, and that allowed us to add a lot more biosolids out there. Here's liquid versus dewatered tonnages of biosolids that are applied at the Poplar farm. So what this graph shows is we don't really have any consistency. The important thing is that there's a lot of flexibility. There's a couple reasons. One is the flexibility of whether the operators want to do liquid or dewatered at the time. Also, we're bringing different stages of trees on with different growth rates at the time. So there's pretty much there's no like normal right now. Why poplar? When the city purchased the agricultural land, it was in grass production. So just real quick, the green bars are poplar, the red bars are ryegrass for comparison. This just shows the nitrogen uptake rates and the amount of biosolids you can apply per acre compared to the two. So quite a bit more capacity with poplar trees per acre. Same thing with irrigation with recycled water. The poplar trees have a higher capacity for that. And Joe was talking about millions of kilocalories per day. That's a thermal load measure. That's something that we're going to be on the hook to have to mitigate for. This is not numbers we can go to the bank with, but real back of the envelope right now, just for consideration. If in a maximum month I can get 46 million gallons more water out to the poplar trees, and you do the calculations of what that daily thermal load difference is, taking that thermal load quantity that's in that water rather than discharging it to the river, instead irrigating your trees with it, that's about the equivalent of a $1.6 million project to benefit right there in terms of thermal load reduction. I just mentioned there's a lot of growing pains. Sheep like to eat the grass and the weeds, which is great, but hey, keep your head down. Don't eat the trees, right? So that becomes a problem. Certain varieties tend to grow really fast and then fall over. Not so great, and we had some fits and starts with irrigation when we started. Real quick, this was just our first harvest, so felled the trees, stockpiled them, processed them all on site into chips and hog fuel. We ended up pulling the stumps. That was a management decision that we made. So all the stumps were either pulled out or ground in place. And then the site was raked and tilled, and parts of it replanted or just prepared for planting again. Stockpiling chips and hog fuel on the site. This was not necessarily a strategic thing. It's just the way that it worked out. Getting the even the chip market here in the Pacific Northwest is very volatile, and as we were approaching the end of the summer there, particularly during that first harvest, the contractor who was doing the work would prefer to just chip directly to the trucks and send them on up the road, but the buyers couldn't take the chips that fast. So we had a backlog. The benefit of actually having to store them, the cost of double handling on the site, which is an economic inefficiency, these things are high water content of poplar when you first harvest them. By placing them out on the tarmac there a little bit and letting them dry out, you could actually get a lot more volume per truck because the density went down with the water content. We also have had to produce some plywood veneer. Here's just some 8-year-old trees because by the time we lined up this possibility with Columbia Forest Products over in Klamath Falls, last fall we had actually already harvested all of our 12-year-old trees. We said, hey, let's take some of our 8-year-old trees from the next rotation. So they're a little bit small, but they performed well, and that's a real promising opportunity. So real quick, where's our material gone so far? It's gone to bioenergy and through biomass combustion, electricity, distributed throughout the kind of Willamette Valley. That's Portland, down by where you see the BioCycle Farm, or Eugene, Springfield, and then Portland, just north of where it says SP Newsprint there. Paper products, down Columbia Forest Products. And then this is a chart just showing real quick, there's a lot of information here. The main thing I want you to focus on is on those 3 groups of columns. The green one with the bright green kind of middle part, that's the amount of revenue that's coming up off of the poplar from each successive harvest. So same age class of trees harvested in 2013, 14, and 15, so they got a year more growth on them each time. And we also did found more lucrative markets, a little bit better market connections each time. So between more volume coming off and getting better prices for the chips, we were almost at the kind of the break-even price for harvest. My job and ambition right now is to and my work with Advanced Hardwood Biofuels is to make these market connections, not just sit around and wait for people to come, hey, who wants to buy our poplar? Help create these markets, help build up the supply chain within the Pacific Northwest to ensure that these markets are going to be there, and so that we can have a financially self-sustainable operation for keeping these poplar trees growing, and that the harvest and the replanting is just a net zero. And that's great for our ratepayers, and it's good for the environment. So I'll have time for questions after, but I think, Ken, you want to come on up?